Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel HK Unique World. This channel is made for you to give the more information about the world history, literatures and the biographies of the famous persons. Those who are watching my channels, please subscribe, and to get the regular videos, please visit my channels. Thank you very much. Today I would like to talk about the great civilizations. It's called the Greek civilizations, and Greek civilization also called the classical civilizations. These civilizations actually began 3000 BC. Later it becomes the flourished. And Greece actually not a united country, rather than some separate lands. And the people, those who are speaking in Greek language, they lived in these areas. Geographically, the Greece was really a wonderful sight, because the Greek people were living not a land, rather than to the around the sea areas, and most of the lands are the rugged and rocky mountains, and a little a portion of the lands were usable for cultivations. So the seas play vital roles in the life of the Grecian peoples, and especially the seas were the Aegean and Ionians, and also the neighboring seas, Black Sea. So everything was very fine because of the blessings of nature. The climate was so wonderful that was quite possible for the people of the Greeks to go outdoors to do their activities like the public events and doing their around jobs. And their lands were not so fertile, but they did it with little portions and made crops. However, the Mycenaean civilization built up at the time of near about 2000 BC. The Mycenaeans were peoples, those who were might be the Indo-Europeans coming from to the southern to the north, then come to the Mycenaeans Rocky Mountains, and there they lived here. And the Mycenaeans had the wonderful civilizations since they were actually locked into these land areas. Sometimes they visited to the sea areas. So in the before my videos I have talked about great civilization about the Minoans. The Mycenaeans contact with the Minoan civilizations. From the Minoans, they had the great contact and learnings, different kind of things, such as the language, the trades, the commerce, and other also writing systems. And they got the shape of the alphabets from the Minoan civilizations. Mycenaeans were actually great nations, and when they contact with the Minoans, they influenced over them. And there was a great war between the two states, like the Mycenaeans and also the Anatolians, which were called the Trojan War. A hero from the king or the prince from the Troy actually kidnapped the queen and the wife of the Menelaus in the Mycenaeans, so that a great hero attacked and destroyed the Troy cities and besieged and destroyed the Troy city for kidnapping their Hellenes. So that's why they destroyed on a trick of the horseback fire, and with a great war on the favor of the Achilles. And on the other side, the Troy had also a great hero. He was called Hector. However, this war actually was devastating for the two sides, but on the Troy was actually destroyed. And later, the Mycenaean civilizations didn't actually last long, because the another kind of peoples, those who are nomadics and coming from later Dorians called, who were the barbaric peoples and didn't like the read and writes, and actually burned the cities of the Mycenaeans and killed huge number of the peoples and took the powers. So the Dorians actually were not educators, not learners, and that's why at the times the Greece history became very dark, because they didn't get the light of educations and didn't get the writing systems. That's why at the times the people were to memorize and communicate with the oral talkings. At the great moments, a great poet was born. He was named the Homers, who wrote an excellent epics, was called the Iliads. The Iliads was a long narrative poems where the war between the Troy and also between the Greeks were described. And in these books also talking about the warriors like the Achilles in one side, and on the other sides the courageous Hectors. So since in the Dorians times there is no systems for writings, a little bit is known about his personal life of Homer. However, Homer is actually regarded as the best poet, since he was a blind poet. And the times the Dorians also actually were the real peoples, those who are not interested for developing the city conditions and also the economic conditions of the Mycenaeans peoples who left these empires, but civilizations they didn't develop at all. So the Dorians didn't play any vital roles from that times, and after that the Dorians peoples left this place, and later the Persians were developing here, and the Athens peoples were actually getting the educations, and they were the peoples, those who are practicing a little democracy, and the democracy of the little or democracy was introduced by a man who was named Draco, and the Solon was the reformers, and later the Cleisthenes also works and reforms the Greece, especially in Athens. On the sides, there's the education system of the Athens, especially the boys were began to at the age of 7 and continued for the long times, and the girls didn't have much opportunity to educate themselves, rather they were too busy in their household works. On the other hand, the Spartan became a military state, and the peoples of the Spartans believed their own powers, and that's why at the time of the Helots, the people those who were actually slaves likes working hard, and their number was great. Once upon a time they revolted against the Spartans, and from that the revolt was strongly controlled, and from the times they changed their attitudes and became mixed with the especially the Spartans for building strong nations. So that was really great things for the Spartans. Literally, the Spartan and the Athens had the quarrelsomes environments, although in the Persian were, especially in marathons were, and also the Persepolis and the Salamis were took place between the Persian and also the Grecians. The result was great because the Greece got high results and became the victors. Later, the two city-states become separated from from each other, because the Athens becoming following the path of democracy. On the other hand, the Spartan follow the military sides. However, between the two states there also took place a war. It's called the Peloponnesian War, and in this war actually the Athens is situated in area of water, seas areas, and didn't like to war in the plain lands, and they are accustomed to war and stay in the inside of the ships. So the Pericles was the person who was the leader of the Athenians, and he always favored in the war in the seas. On the other hand, the Spartans actually strong in mainlands, and they were wearing state situations where their great position was actually in the plain lands. However, between the two city states, the war results was in favor of the Spartans, and Spartan gains the victory. So if we talk about the history of the Greece, we found that the great civilization was formed at the time of Pericles. The time of the Greece had the golden age. In the times, the art, cultures, histories, and other things were flourished and developed. So that was in great conditions. In Athens, the people of the times believed in individuality. That's why a great sculptor, the Phidias, who made the Parthenon's temples, made the history, because the statue, I mean these temples were great at the times. And later that if we talk about the drama and histories, in dramas there were the two forms, tragedy and comedy. In a tragedy was written by the great writers, and there was the Aeschylus written in tragedies. Then the Sophocles was very famous for his dramas, and Euripides. So however, at the times there was also a comedy. Aristophanes was a great writer at the times and wrote many comedies. So that was a great times for in the history of the Greece. And if we talk about the history, the great historians Herodotus wrote excellent description of the Persian wars. It is probably thought that the first written book in history about all credits goes to the Herodotus, and later it was the Thucydides who also gave the minute and excellent description of the history. So that was really an excellent time passings by the Grecian people, especially in Athens. And on the other hand, the Spartans were very busy of building their military states. For the boys, those who are at the age at 7 went to the barracks and coming back at the age of 30s, took most hardy trainings, especially military trainings, and they were to give a little food, especially the porridge, and the girls also took the trainings for as military powers, because they believed on the powers and the leaderships. In this ways, the Spartans become a very strong city-states and nations. However, both of the two cities were involved in wars, and from that time the two cities became very weak. However, in the neighboring states, it was named the Macedonia. The Macedonia was keeping sharp eyes on the conditions of the Greece, and his king was Philip II, who dreamed to capture the Greece. And the Greek people thought that the Macedonians people were not actually educated. They don't have any art and culture, not have any strong history. So that's why they're a little bit bored about the Macedonians. However, the Greece was taken by and was captured and occupied by the great leaders, Alexander the Great, the son of the Philip II, and from the Alexanders he conquered the Athens, and he also conquers the Spartans and also neighboring states. The Alexander the Great since captures the Greece, and from that point the Greece people are actually under the Alexander the Great. And after conquering this Greece, he went to the neighboring states. The mighty empires was there, the Persians. So he invaded the Persia and captures most of his lands, and later he took also power of the empire of the Persia, and he became the great emperor. And later he also lead an invasions to the Indians, and although he didn't go much more advanced there, later after the Alexander the Great, his successors were the Seleucids, the Antiochus, and so these were very strong leaders, and they also increased the areas of the Alexander's empires. Alexander the Great also married women who was named the Roxana in Persia. So he introduced the mixed cultures and the history to the Persian peoples and mixings, and also he also lead an excellent expedition to the Egypt, where he also occupied the Egypt, and he made also different kinds of good things, like he made the city Alexandria in the name of his after the name of his own, and there is an Alexandria lighthouse which was very marvelous place, and the people became surprised to see its ruins, but it was a miraculous and really an outstanding work done by the Alexander the Great. Later the Ptolemy persons, one of these the general of Alexander, after the death of Alexander, the Ptolemy actually became the pharaoh or the king of the Egypt. However, in this ways the Greece history developed day by day. In that sense, the history of the Greece was really marvelous and glorious. The excellent and fascinating story of the Greece really ever will be remembered in the history of the world, and their contributions in cultures, and their contribution in the educations, and also in the histories of the different types, like the dramas, and also the astronomies and science and other sides. They played vital roles. And what we talk about the teachers of the Alexander was like the Socrates, then to the Plato's, then to the Aristotle. Aristotle was the direct teacher of Alexander the Great. So from that those the great sagacious persons, the history of the Greece became very excellent and attractive. So those who are actually the historians, they actually find the real taste after reading their culture, history and everything. So thank you very much today for describing this excellent history of the Greece, and till then, thank you.